Good evening, everyone. On behalf of myself, Art, Megan, and Kira, welcome to the webinar. We appreciate you guys joining us from many different time zones and many different points of your evening, and it's very much appreciated. Just a little bit of housekeeping at the beginning of the presentation. This meeting is being recorded and it will be shared out on our YouTube channel later this week once we are able to get that done through our editors. We'll also have our slides available for everyone. And if Kira so chooses, we can also share her presentation out to you guys later this week. So if you have any questions for any of our presenters, please use the chat function and we'll be monitoring that as we go along. And with that being said, I'm going to turn our time over to Art.
Amanda, thank you so much. And hello, everyone. Welcome to what's going to be a very, very exciting evening and a very exciting year. I am honored to be the moderator of 12 monthly sessions of the series called The Business of Dentistry. My name is Art Wiederman. I'm a CPA. I'm a dental CPA. I've been a dental CPA for 36 years. I'm a dental director at the CPA firm of Eide Bailey. And I am working in conjunction with 6 local dental societies to present to you the business of dentistry. And this has been a program that all of the dental societies, myself and our entire team at Eide Bailey have been working on for many months now. And this is our kickoff session. So I want to just kind of give you a little overview of what we're going to be doing tonight. You're going to meet Kira Dent from the Dental A team. I'll tell you a little bit about her in a couple of minutes. She's going to present a dynamite program. I also have with me Megan Mortimer, who is a congressional lobbyist for the American Dental Association. We're going to spend a little time talking about the new PPP rules that came in from the Stimulus Act. But first, I want to tell you about this series. This series is going to be every the second Wednesday of every month at this time from 6 to 8. So please sign up for it. You can go on to www.eidebailey.com/dental series and sign up. We're going to do this every single month. Next month, we have a wonderful presenter, Christy Bolts, who's going to talk about dental marketing. One of the best speakers I've ever heard, as is Kira, the young lady you're going to hear tonight. I do want to thank the 6 executive directors of our dental societies that have partnered with Eide Bailey to put this series on. That would be Kristen Avina from the Harbor Dental Society, Megan Francis from the Orange County Dental Society, Lee Adishian from the San Gabriel Valley Dental Society, Michelle Schneider from the West Los Angeles Dental Society, Kurt Thornton from the San Fernando Valley Dental Society, and Greg Orloff from the Los Angeles Dental Society. Executive directors, thank you for all of your great passion and help in putting this together. We have a lot of information to present to you tonight, so I'm going to get started. So I would like to again introduce my good friend, Megan Mortimer. Megan is a congressional lobbyist out of Washington, D.C. So she's up late tonight helping us. She specializes in helping members of the ADA navigate through the PPP loans and the EIDL loans. And Megan and myself and our members of our Academy of Dental CPAs, we've all been working tirelessly for the last 9 months, going over all these rules. And the executive directors asked us to take about 15 minutes and talk about the new rules that have come out with the stimulus package. So Amanda, if you could put up that PowerPoint let's see, where's our PowerPoint? I don't see it. Okay, so she's going to put up the PowerPoint and I will be in control of it. So let's go ahead and go down and start talking, Megan. So basically, let me just scroll down here. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, so that's Megan. That's Megan and I. So without going into a lot of history, we are now coming to round 2. Back in March, they passed the CARES Act, $349 billion of PPP money, and we've all been to that movie before. and many of you applied for round one and are just going to be beginning to start, to ask for forgiveness. Well, on December 27th, Congress, the president signed the second stimulus bill, $900 billion stimulus bill, which created round two of the PPP, $284.5 billion. It's called the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. So Megan, let's start going through, maybe start running down some of the requirements. If you got a PPP loan the first time, you can get one a second time. So let's go through, why don't you start going through some of the rules as who is eligible to get a second round loan?
Well, I think we should call it PPP the sequel. I like that better than PPP round two. For some reason, that has a ring to it. Anyway, since you said you've been in this movie before, this is PPP the sequel. So essentially almost all of our members that applied for PPP loans will be able to apply for a second draw. But yeah, the rules are 300 employees. You also have to show that you had a 25% reduction in revenue for any of the quarters in 2020, which again, I don't think any of our members or any of your clients can't prove that. No. Other than that, it's really all just kind of the same rules. You have to talk about, you just have to check a box saying you have some economic uncertainty, which I think everybody in the world can say that they have some economic uncertainty right now. And that's for the second draw loans. And then we have some members, and you may have some clients that ended up not taking PPP loans the first time around and have decided that now they want to take advantage because of the easier rules. So there's also the first draw loans for anyone who hasn't. Same kinds of rules, but they don't have to have that 25% reduction threshold.
And again, the rules are basically they're basically the same. You have to use the money for 60% of the money for payroll costs. You can use it for rent, utilities, and interest. But Megan, they've also added a new set of categories, have they not?
Yeah, so ADA, along with a number of other stakeholders, really wanted PPE to be included as something that you could pay for with PPP loans, because that has been probably one of the largest expenses that we've seen for dental practices increase over the past year. And it's not just for gloves and masks and outerwear, but it's also for any retrofitting you might have done in your office in order to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. So plexiglass, or if you put doors where they didn't exist on your operatories, things like that you can also include. So for the second round of PPP loans, you and I advised them to just spend it all on payroll last time, right? Your first draw, just go for payroll. If you want to spend on operating expenses, you can, but if you can just use it all for payroll, easy peasy. Now you want to maybe be a little bit more creative with your second round of PPP loans. Yeah, you might want to explore doing the PPE more so for the 40% of operating expenses you can use this on. So that was great. Also, you can use it for software and cloud computing and any HR software that you use, which I thought was an interesting addition as well.
Yeah, and so what you're going to do, folks, is you're going to figure out 2.5 times your average monthly payroll cost. Now, you can use either 2019 or 2020. We suspect, Megan, that most people will use 2019 because in 2020, many dental offices had employees that were laid off or furloughed or whatever you want to call it. They went on unemployment. They maybe came back. Maybe they didn't hire everybody back. So we suspect that your 2019 payroll is probably going to be higher than your 2020, but you just got to get your accountant to run the numbers. And folks, this is an accountant assisted process. If you get someone who sends you an advertisement and says, oh, pay us $2,500 and we'll do all this for you, you don't need that. It's a very simple process. Now, for loans under $150,000, when you get the form is going to give you a place to put the quarter from 2019 and the quarter from 2020 that you're justifying the 25% reduction. If your loan's under $150,000, you don't have to put that information in on the application, but you will have to put that information in when you file for forgiveness. And I think, Megan, if it's over $150,000, they have to put it in on the application, right?
Yes, yes.
And the deadline is?
March 31st.
Yeah, so here's what we're talking about here is, folks, we think, when the first round came out, it was about 3 weeks after the pandemic. Everybody was thinking, this is not going to go too long. It's not a big deal. We'll figure it out. It'll go away. Well, obviously, we know that didn't happen. Now you've got lots and lots of small businesses that I believe are going to be looking at this, this round too. Our suggestion is, if you're going to choose to go after this money, sooner rather than later is probably not a bad idea. So that is kind of what we're thinking, Megan, isn't it?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So what you're going to do, folks, is you're going to go ahead and you're going to apply through your local bank. We recommend that you go to the same bank that you used before. So if you went to XYZ Bank, they've got all your information. They approved you for the first round of the PPP. It's just going to be much easier for them to approve you for the second round of PPP. Now, if I have heard some stories of some banks, Megan, I don't know if you've heard this. I've heard 2 or 3 stories of some banks that have said, well, you have to file for forgiveness for round 1 till we'll make you the loan for round 2. And if they tell you that, go to a different bank, because that is not a requirement, right? That I'm aware of.
Correct. No, it is not. And yes, find a new lender.
Okay. And again, these same rules, the loan, as long as you spend 60% of the money on payroll, you can spend the other 40% on rent, interest, utilities, and now PPE and all of these other categories of expenses. And as long as you do that, and as long as you maintain the same number of full-time equivalent employees from the time you take the loan until probably the end of the covered period, that's fine. You can use an 8 to 24 week period. You can pick your period. You can pick 16 and a half weeks if you want. Why you would do that, I don't know, but you can. And basically, this is free money. You're going to have to sign an attestation that says that you believe that there's economic necessity. And as Megan said, with everything that's going on in Washington and everything that's going on in our economy, and this is a horrible thing to say, the COVID numbers as high as they've ever been. I definitely think that there is economic uncertainty. I've heard some of our doctors telling us in LA County, Orange County, where the COVID rate is very high. I'm hearing about cancellations, and I'm hearing, and again, this we hope is a temporary thing, but I believe there's definitely, Megan, uncertainty. Do you have any issue?
I don't think anyone can claim that there isn't economic uncertainty right now, except for maybe, companies who sell hand sanitizer. Other than that, I mean, everywhere is experiencing some sort of downturn. And as you told me, I mean, we had a lot of people coming back to dental offices in droves after kind of pandemic height had kind of died down a little bit. But, we're not necessarily seeing those same returns in the same quarter as, we would in normal times for what's going on right now. So, there's always ways to look at it. But I don't think anyone can claim that they have some economic stability that, the rest of us aren't. Actually.
Well, the dental profession has come through this pandemic better than most professions or industries. And I will tell you that things are very much looking up, which your speaker tonight, Kira, is going to absolutely echo that things are very positive and going well in dentistry. And that's why we're here to help you with that. So I want to touch on a couple more issues before we turn this over to Kira. Number one, there is a tax credit that was created by the CARES Act back in March called the Employee Retention Tax Credit. And what it did is it gave employers, if you had a 50% or greater reduction in your revenues in any quarter in 2020 versus 2019, you could take a credit. To make it really simple, 50% of a maximum of $10,000 per quarter per employee. So it's $5,000 per employee. The problem was that in 2020, when you went for round 1, if you took out a PPP loan, you were not permitted to take a loan to qualify for this employee retention credit. But Megan, that has changed, has it not?
Another thing that we fought for, we wanted people who took advantage of the PPP to be able to take advantage of ERTC, as we refer to it, and also to expand beyond the 50%. And you can get into kind of the details of what they've done for even expanding ERTC as it was.
Right. So basically, they've expanded the employer retention tax credit into 2021. So the maximum now goes to $7,000 per employee per quarter for the first 2 quarters of 2021. We are not getting into this tonight. All I'm going to tell you is that we believe that there is a very real possibility that if you do some math and then talk to your CPA about this, you could very well be able to move around what numbers you put down to apply for forgiveness for round 1 of the PPP. And in addition, use some of the wages that you paid in a quarter where maybe you were down by 50%, or one other rule, which I'll talk about, and get this employee retention tax credit. This is another reason that we're urging our members, I think you are too, Megan, there is no rush to file for forgiveness. You have 10 months from the date that your PPP loan covered period ended, which for most of you is going to run into June, July, and probably August or even September. So we want to see what these rules look like. Megan, I think we're going to get some guidance from the government in the next couple of weeks, we think.
Yes, IRS is hopefully putting out additional guidance on ERTC.
So the bottom line is, what we want to be able to do is to take the 24 weeks during your covered period, maybe use part of that for forgiveness for the 60%, and be allowed to use the rest of it to take this employee retention tax credit, which we believe could put tens of thousands of dollars into your pocket. And we at Eide Bailly were working on spreadsheets and all this, waiting for guidance. So if you file for forgiveness and you put all of your wages as forgiveness, then you basically blow up your possibility of getting this second tax credit. That's as deep as I want to get into this tonight. Obviously, you guys can give us a call or send us an email or what have you. I want to touch on a couple of other things quickly. Is the HHS Provider Relief Fund portal. Many of you, as part of the CARES Act, there was $175 billion that came out to healthcare providers only, mostly to the medical profession in the first several months. Dentistry kicked in, Megan, for most everybody around July, August, right?
Yep, we had to push them to recognize dentistry, and once they did, came out roaring.
So many of you who applied for that got 2% of your gross revenue. So if you had $1 million practice, you got $20,000. Well, this Friday, the Department of Health and Human Services, who administers this program, SBA administers the PPP program, the Health and Human Services administers the Provider Relief Fund. You are going to have a portal is going to open up. The only thing we want to tell you is that you have until February 15th to report your eligible expenses for the HHS Provider Relief Fund. Again, if we can help you, let us know. Look onto the website, www.hhs.gov, for more information. There's a lot of reporting. You have to put down 8 quarters, 19 and 20 of wages. Of revenues broken out by insurance and cash. So there's a lot of information that you have to provide. Just be aware that this portal, unless HHS delays it, opens this Friday, the 15th, and you have 30 days. If you don't spend all the money, didn't spend it through the end of the year, you do have another 6 months till June of next year to do that. The only other thing I want to mention, Megan, is the fact that as part of the Stimulus Act, they came out with a forgiveness, a simplified forgiveness. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So yeah, for both second draw and first draw loans, if you have a PPP loan of $150,000 or less, the forgiveness application is now 1 page. It literally says in statute, it has to be 1 page. And essentially it's just an attestation saying that you needed the money, and under penalty of perjury that, you required this money for the economic health of your business. The only other requirements is that you keep your records for payroll for 3 years, and then for operating expenses that you use for PPP for 4 years. It went from, remember Art, it was 11 pages, then went down to 4 for the easy, and now is 1. And also it's going to be easier for even loans over 150,000 up to 2 million. It's that 2 million threshold for loans that are going to get a lot more scrutiny and probably be subject to a lot more auditing. So that's great. I mean, it'll save our dentists and your clients a ton of time.
Yeah, I do want to make a point, Megan, that even though this 1-page attestation is coming out, they still have to make sure that they follow the rules. You've not, if you laid off a whole bunch of employees and didn't use 60% of the money for payroll, you probably can't file this form. And even if you do, you might have some forgiveness that you lose. So check with your CPA. I've put up Megan's email address. I will tell you folks, the American Dental Association has been off the charts unbelievable as far as their support of the 163,000 members that they have. Megan and Michael Graham and David Lynn, who handles the HHS, and all their folks have just been working tirelessly answering probably thousands of questions that you've gotten. So this is Megan's email address. If you have a question or a concern or something, Megan, they can send you an email, right?
Of course. Your members get access to us in whatever way they need. And we usually answer within 24 hours, sometimes 48, depending on how busy I am. But yes, feel free to email me.
And also be aware, folks, I have drafted over the weekend a pretty extensive letter with exhibits and everything that we're going to be sending to our clients. If you want a copy of that letter, just email me and I'll get you a copy of it. It's probably going to be done in the next couple of days. So Megan, anything else? I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I mean, again, just keep an eye out for those forgiveness forms. They aren't released yet. The banks and lenders, SBA has 24 days after the enactment of this law to put out those forms. So they should be coming very soon. But yeah, just get ready. The portal will open on Friday for you the lenders will be able to start accepting applications on Friday. So just feel prepared and we really encourage you to take out a second draw loan. You might as well. It's much easier now than it was before. So go for it.
The government's offering it up. And folks, we don't know. We're all optimistic, and we are very optimistic about 2021. But there's a lot of things that we don't control. And I think I'm telling everybody again, build a war chest.
Yep.
Between your PPP and your HHS money. A lot of you have built a war chest. Build a bigger war chest. It doesn't go bad. It's not like cheese. It doesn't go bad, right, Megan? If you keep the money. Yeah.
It's true. And the only one thing and last thing I want to mention about PPP forgiveness is that one stipulation of a lot of our members were surprised because they did not recall that they had to deduct their Eide grant amount from their PPP loan forgiveness. Yeah. You no longer have to do that now either. So again, much easier than it was before. And they are opening up the Eide grant portal again soon, January 17th, but it's for very specific businesses that are in underserved areas. But again, a lot of our dental practices are still in those areas as well, especially the rural practices. So keep eyes out from ADA on news on that as well moving forward.
So most of you will have access to go to the portal. I'm guessing sometime middle of next week. Does that sound about right, Megan?
Yeah, for the Eide grant, January 17th.
No, but I mean for the round 2 PPP.
PPP lenders are starting to accept applications Friday. But we need to let everyone know they need to have a little bit of patience with these lenders because they, again, rolled this out in 10 days. And so some lenders, although they're under, statute to be able to accept applications starting Friday, they may not be ready. And we have a lot of lenders out there with some incorrect information already. So we're already having to stem those as well.
And do lean on the ADA, folks. I mean, we've got, issues about, we're not getting into tonight about, vaccines, getting the vaccine, all this information. ADA is on top of this. This is an unbelievable, you're very well served by your professional organization. Megan, hang on as long as you like. And thank you so much for everything that you've done to help me and all of dentistry. Really, you guys are first responders like I can't even begin to tell you.
Thanks, Art. We're here for our members. We really try to work hard for them. So I'm going to go off camera, but I'm probably going to listen to Kira for a little while. Okay.
Thank you so much, Megan. All right, folks. Now we're going to get to the what I'm going to call the main event. So I'm going to tell you that when the directors of these 6 dental societies, executive directors, we got on a call and I said, well, what do you want to do? And they all kind of said the same thing. We would like to kick this series off with a bang. Do you have somebody who's got a really positive attitude, a lot of energy, has got a lot of knowledge? This is exactly what they said to me. And it took me a split second. I said, I know who's going to start this. I've not known Kira a very long time. I've known her several months now. She did do a podcast with me. I do a weekly podcast, by the way, called The Art of Dental Finance and Management. It comes out every Wednesday. In fact, if you were to subscribe to it, I go into great depth about this whole PPP issue. So I was introduced to Kira Dent by Scott Haberman, one of our partners at Eide Bailey, and I met Kira. and I had her on the podcast, and I've done about 110 of these podcasts. I truly, and I'm not exaggerating, it was the most informative podcast I have ever put out. I was so thrilled. And I said, Kira's got to head this up for me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kira. The name of her presentation tonight is From Desperation to Inspiration, Total Practice Makeover. Kira is the CEO of the Dental A Team, as you can see on her shirt. She is with the Dental A Team. They do in-person dental office coaching. Kira is actually a partner in several dental offices. So she kind of has her own lab that she can try all of these different management procedures and recommendations on, right, Kira? Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And how many dental practices do you guys work with?
We have over 165 offices across the nation that we work with. And that's from specialists to generalists to startups to transitions to phase out.
And tonight's presentation, I mean, the goals of what Kira and her team do are to positively change the structure and culture inside her clients' practices. So I am very excited to introduce you to my good friend, Miss Kira Dent of the Dental A Team. And Kira, take it away. It's all yours.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you, Art. Thank you, Eide Bailey. And thank you, all of you that are out there tonight. I know it's a little bit later for you, so I am just so thrilled. And I am just excited to be here. I love Eide Bailey. We work really, really well together. Scott and I met, and I feel we are siblings in another life. And then he introduced me to Art. And so I'm just excited to be here because I believe, and I don't know if you guys believe, that we're in the best profession we could ever be in, and that's dentistry. So thank you, Megan and Art. I was sitting here, wow, that's so much information, because I know a lot of the doctors we're working with are also looking for this PPP information. I think it's kind of, we're in a world inundated with knowledge, starving for wisdom. And I feel like there was a lot of wisdom. So thank you guys for kicking that off. It was an easy entry. So let's get started, guys, because we're all here. So I think, let me make sure that I think, Amanda, I can take over the screen share. There we go. All right. So I do a lot of these presentations. And one thing for all of you out there, I'm a firm believer that we should not be sitting there passively learning. I'm very much an interactive, just because I can't see you, like high five, be having your snacks in your pajamas. I don't care what you are, but I will have the chat up the entire time. So I'll be watching that chat because I want you guys to ask questions in real time. This is for you. We work with hundreds of offices. And so let's just dive in, because I think when Art asked me to speak and to kick it off in January, I thought, okay, what are we going to do that's going to inspire these doctors, that's going to give hope, but not just inspire, give you tangible tacticals. One of my biggest things, I like to go to meetings, webinars. If I'm going to invest my time, I want to take something away from it that I can absolutely learn and grow from. So if you guys are ready, we'll just get a little warm up of who. So that's how you guys learn how to use the chat. How many of you out there think with me that dentistry is the best profession we could ever be in? Pop it in the chat. Give me a yes without saying yes. I want to see the answers come through. I'll call out a few of them. Don't be shy. I've got a yes with an exclamation point. Thank you. Thank you. Keep them coming. We've got a absolutely 100%. Yes, yes. Keep them coming, guys. This is where you're going to get that participation. You're going to learn to, heck yeah, I'm a third generation dentist. I love that. Definitely. Yes, yes. Keep them coming. This is where we get so much of this. I agree completely. Todd, I love that. Leslie, I love my work. Keep them coming. Yes, yes. I love this because you guys, we are in the best profession there is. Thank you. Shout out to all of you who participate. Like I said, the more you're going to engage, I feed off of your energy, the more you're going to take away from this tonight. So let's get started on this, from desperation to inspiration. Whoa, we're just like jumping ahead here. So let me just back this up. Don't worry, guys. Don't peek. You just cheated. You saw what's coming. Get your phones ready. There's a QR code. So as Art said, I am Kira Dent. Believe it or not, Dent is really my last name. I get asked that a lot. We're a dental consulting company and I love teams. And so I make the joke that I was engaged 3 times to get the last name of Dent. I just had to get better SEO. So Dent really is my last name. My husband's actually a pharmacist. People ask me, what does your husband do? And I'm like, I tried to get him to be a dentist, guys, but he just wanted to be a pharmacist. So I have been a dental assistant, a treatment coordinator, a biller, a scheduler, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, like Art mentioned. I taught at Midwestern University's dental college for 3 years out in Glendale, Arizona. That's where I think I fell in love, and that's where I changed the trajectory of my career. Up until that time, I'd been in general practices, working at offices, and when my husband was attending pharmacy school, guys, I've always been a little scrappy, a little entrepreneur over here, and I had heard that at certain colleges, the spouse actually could get a discount on tuition if they worked at the college. So I happened to meet somebody at the pool that night, and she happened to work at the dental college, and lo and behold, here we are. I worked at the dental college. It was amazing, and I feel so blessed that they let me work there and learned so much. It definitely pivoted me from being clinical and in the office to seeing what it's like in dental school. You guys go back to dental school. Who remembers dental school? Please, please, please tell me about your dental school experience. Like, did you love it? Did you hate it? Does it bring back nightmares? Also notice we say DAT. Does that bring back a little bit of those feelings of taking the test to get into dental school? I want to hear from you guys. Take you back to dental school because I tried to play a lot of fun tricks on the students. I've got some people saying, yes, definitely remember it. That take you back to your DAT days in school. But I think that that's where I fell in love with practices. DAT was fun. Dental school was the hardest time of my life. Never want to repeat that, but made it as fun as I could. First 2 years of horror. Oh my goodness, right? And so we actually, when I worked at the dental college, I would pull pranks on the students. You guys remember on your practical days, stressed out if you don't have the blue wax to wax it up and I've got green wax, like the world has ended. You guys, that blue wax, I know it's your thing. I would stand behind, we had blind grading rooms, and I would stand behind, and as you guys went to go get your little typodonts out of the boxes, I would actually like have my face in the box and say, good luck. And it would just shake the students up. And it was fun to see the future of dentistry. And that's where I really fell in love. And that's actually why we created the Dental A team, because I had all these hundreds of students that I knew. And I thought, going out to practice ownership is something that's very tricky. And how are these students going to know they need a resource? And so that's why we started the Dental A team Consulting. We now coach offices all across the nation to be a resource, to figure out the best, most efficient ways, and then share it with you guys. And that's also why we created the Dental A Team podcast. So I figured there's so much that goes to doctors, but what about your teams? It's tricky to get your teams up to par. It's tricky to inspire your teams. Docs, you come to these webinars and you get all jazzed up, and then you got to take it back to your team and have them implement. And so that's actually why we built the Dental A Team podcast. They're short, they're simple. So have your teams listen. You guys can listen. Art's been on there as well with Scott. We try to have it educational, keep it short. As someone once gave me the term, we try to Dr. Seuss the systems of dentistry. So that's a little bit about me. So let's dive in. I want you guys to ask these questions to yourself as we get started. And the first thing about question time is keeping a team accountable feel impossible? I know when I was an office manager, you guys, I have some horror stories. I've got some hilarious stories. But running an accountable team seemed like it felt impossible. I would tell them to do it, and then the next thing you know, we're not doing it. We would get really great, and then all of a sudden, something happens. All of our offices, not all, a lot, COVID came. So all of a sudden, we switch up our process, and it felt like we had never done dentistry and had processes in place, because now that we're having to scan forms and take their temperatures and text to chair, that our handoffs, which were the most basic system, now have gone out the window. So does that seem true to you? Keeping a team accountable feel impossible? Do you leave work on time, or are you always staying there late, feeling exhausted? Are you growing? You're growing, but you don't know what the next step is. So you've been doing really well, but you know there's got to be another step, but not sure where it is. Well, you're not alone. These are the offices we work with. So I want you guys, let's get clear with where you are. So pull out your phone. This QR code will work. And what this is going to do is this is going to be an accountability quiz. So I made this up because I like to take personality quizzes. And two, I wanted to baseline you with the type of doctor, the type of practice you're running, because your team is a direct reflection of you as their leader. So all you guys snag your phones. I'll do it with you. So that way I know about how long it'll take. And then when you get your results, let me know. So just snag your phones. You guys can put it up to the QR code, and it should pop up right to the top take a quiz for you. So snag that QR code. Let me know if it doesn't work. I think it's working. Mine popped up. It should say type form, take the quiz. It's about, I think it's 10 to 15 questions. I'll just give you guys a couple of minutes, answer those questions. Be honest. I'm not grading these, don't worry. And it will show your results. It'll give a percentage. Once you get your percentage of how accountable you are, pop it in the chat. So I know you guys are participating along, and I'll give you guys just a couple minutes to go through that. It's really easy. Like I said, we're not grading you at all. Are you guys able to get that to pull up on your phones? Pop it in the chat if you're able to get that up there. I know Art, Amanda, you guys try it out as well. Make sure. No, not getting it. No, okay, fantastic. Well, let's just pretend. So we're gonna do a quick stop share, and I'm gonna pull up a quiz for you guys. It's easy. Art knows that I can pivot on a dime. So let me actually snag this for you guys. Apologies on that. But there's a lot of questions. So as we're getting ready for these questions, I want you guys to think up about, okay, so do you have regular team meetings? And do you have, like, we're talking on the weekly, we're talking on the monthly, are you guys having regular team meetings? So give me just a second as I pull this up for you guys. And if it doesn't work, I'll look real quick because it should be right here. Let's see, I checked it right before the presentation, so apologies on that. And if not, no big deal. I'll have them send it to you afterwards. But just think to yourself, here we go. All right, let me see if I can snag the link for you guys. I have one right here, and let's see if I can share this with you. And I'll just pop it in the chat so we can actually do this. So let me copy the link. All right, you guys ready? We're gonna try this real quick. So in your guys' chat, let me send it to everybody as well. Here we go. There's always a solution. All right, there you guys go. Just pop on that question on the chat, and that should take you right to it. So I'll make sure that's actually working. You guys give me some feedback on it. Should pop up and says, it's time to see how accountable you really are. Click to start, click start to continue. So everybody able to use that link? Did that work out for you? I like to pivot, help you guys out, but I wanted you guys to baseline. Fantastic, thank you, Lisa. If I was handing out t-shirts, you would definitely be getting one. So thanks for the feedback. Go ahead, guys, click on that link. It's in the chat for you, and take this accountability quiz. Let's see how accountable you are right now. Like I said, we're just gonna baseline you. Don't worry. And I don't care if you put your real name in, you can put whatever you wanna do. I'll take it with you guys so I know about how long it will take you. All right, you guys should have this. 1 is never and 5 is always. And I usually don't give myself a 5. So go ahead and just click through that, answer it honestly, give you guys a few minutes to go through that.
So Kira, while everybody's taking your quiz, I'm seeing dental offices coming back really strong. How are you seeing things across the country? I mean, I'm looking really positive.
Yeah, you're exactly right. From what I've seen, most of the offices that we've worked with, that I've heard, that we've chatted with, they are all saying that it actually has been better than they thought it would be. They did better. I had a doctor just the other day on a call. She said, Kira, look at this. Look at what I did in 2019, working every month, and look at what I've been able to accomplish. And only working 10 months of the year, because she had to close down in December because she even got COVID, and literally her number was almost the exact same, if not better. And she was closed for 2 months. Other doctors are just blowing their numbers out of the water. Some struggled, but most even had their highest months that they've ever had in dentistry. So it's been pretty positive coming back that I've been able to see.
So here's something that I want to also, because we're, I mean, we want to present a positive message, which we are doing. But here's the deal. There's probably 10 to 20% of Americans who would normally go to the dentist who are not willing to set foot out of their house until we have herd immunity. Would you say that's probably pretty accurate?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So the vaccine is out. They just got to get it out to everybody. And from everything I'm hearing, we're looking at 3 to 6 months. Those people are going to start coming back into dental offices later in 2021. And that's another thing to look forward to. So
Exactly right. I think it's really, that's why I said it should go from desperation to inspiration. That's why I wanted to bring this topic up today, because I think there's so much beauty in the world that we can do, which is why I wanted to give you guys some tactical skills tonight of what you can take back with small little fine tuning. I'll show you guys what people did. And these are all examples from practices in 2020 and what they're able to accomplish. Okay, did you guys get your accountability scores? I know I got mine. Pop it in the chat so I know and we can move forward for you, because I want to give you guys a lot. But I'm really, really picky that we've got to know where you're starting today. Because if you don't know where you're even starting today and you're not honest with yourself, how do you even know those fine-tuned changes to make? And Amanda asked, I will absolutely share this PowerPoint with you guys because there's a lot of forms in there. So I'll give you guys about 1 more minute. Pop it in that chat. Let me know where you guys are at once you get that. It should give you an example. So right here, like I have mine over here, it says, getting close to extreme accountability. I'm 80% of the time accountable. So let's see, you guys can put it in there, 80%. I've seen some 70%. I've seen some 50%. I've seen some 90%. So let me know what you guys are getting with your percentages. And then also maybe take some notes on some of those things that you could do. We made this up for offices that we're working with, just to see where their accountability is at. Are they themselves accountable or are they not? So you guys, give you one more minute and then we're going to move forward, because I want to also be conscious of your time as well tonight. All right. Art, I'm curious how accountable you were. I just made it up and I got 80%. So, and I definitely clicked a few ones in there. So don't worry, it will score you guys nicely.
Well, I'm an accountant, Kira, so I have to be accountable.
You better be, Art.
That's right.
Otherwise, we're in big trouble. If he's not accountable, guys, we are in big trouble here tonight. All right. So you guys, you should have gotten an accountability score. And like I said, I want you guys to remember that your team is a direct reflection of the leader at the helm. So that's you. So if there are issues with you or you're not holding yourself accountable, let's change some of those things. That's going to help your team improve. So here we go. Let's head on over to the next one. So I want to take you guys through 3 life examples. Okay, I got a few over there. I've got an 80%. I've got a 70%. Thank you guys for sharing. It helps me know you guys are connecting. I've got a 65%. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. Keep those answers coming. This is how you guys play full out. You're able to get the most out of this tonight. So I'm going to walk you guys through 3 real life examples and tell you exactly what we did to help them get their success. So take notes. Like I said, you guys can have all this. I've got a lot of forms on here for you, but I want you to just look at I got a 51%. Awesome. Like you guys, if we don't baseline and we don't know where we're at, how can we improve? There's no way. We're like, oh, I do that all the time. Actually, that's a zone I could change. And I'll have you guys share tonight as well. But take notes on where you're lacking accountability or ideas you have, because I firmly believe that the way to make change is to take what we learn and actually implement it. So here is the first practice. And I did 3 different types of practice. So they're all going to be varying types, what their practice was doing, and then what exactly we did for each. So tonight you guys leave with a tactical toolbox so you yourself can say you were able to go from desperation to inspiration. So this is a practice that we worked with. They were a first-time practice owner. When they bought the practice, it was $350,000 in annual revenue. So it's one of those sleeping practices, the type of practice we all like to purchase. Has 4 ops, 1 hygienist, paper charts. New patient flow was about 15 new patients a month. No office manager, and no one who knew billing. Okay, so that's where they started when they came to us. And here you guys go. In a year and a half, so most of it was through COVID, that they had been in business for a half a year before COVID hit. So welcome to business ownership. COVID, I think, is just another flavor of business. There's always going to be an ebb and flow. And if we can learn to ride those ebbs, then when the flow's here, it's great. But that way you're able to recognize it's COVID or it's the housing market. These things will happen to business. And if you're prepared, you're going to be able to move forward. I love what you said, Art. Like, ramp up that chest, like don't be afraid to bolster that up. And so hopefully a lot of these things will help you guys. This office was super prepared through COVID. I love what he's able to do. So on the left side is the before. So 350, 4 ops, 1 hygienist, paper charts, new patient flow of 15, no office manager, and no one new billing. After, so in a year and a half, they did 1 million with a 50% overhead in COVID, taking 2.5 months. Their average monthly production was between 85 and 100,000. They have 2 full-time hygienists now. Their new patient flow is up to 30 to 35 plus per month, depending upon the month. They have 2 front office, 2 dental assistants. They're looking to buy the space next door to expand the office to 8 to 10 ops, working 3.5 days. I definitely have encouraged 4 days, but still only at 3.5 days. And they added in a membership plan, sleep, and ortho. So that's kind of where the baselines were. I like you guys to bookend to see. And now, how did we actually do that? Let's give you the steps of exactly what happened. So first step was I took them through this billing breakdown. Now this is made for Open Dental. You guys can translate it into EagleSoft or Dentrix, but we really walked them through what exactly needs to happen for their billing breakdown. So at the beginning of the day, how to do claim completion from the previous day, collection calls to patients, end of day, what needs to happen so their billing could tighten up. Having a team member who had never had billing experience before, this was vital. So we created this for her, helped her out, taught her how to do this. So that was the first part of it. Here was what for the billing breakdown of what needs to happen weekly. So on there, aged claims, choose 2 days. We prefer Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Tuesday, we focus on our patient AR, and on Thursdays, we focus on our insurance AR. And we built a spreadsheet for her so she could see where all of her claims were. Doctor knew exactly where his 30, 60, 90 was in the practice, like where is my money? This is a great way to do it. We also added the 15 calls a day. So that way she knew how many patients to be calling on average per week. Yes, she could ramp it up, but this is a baseline for her. And it was very well mapped out along with screenshots. How do we run the AR report? We also talked about like writing off accounts. There was old debt we just had to write off bad debt. So giving her a process for doing that. And then the last part was a collection protocol. I noticed that they weren't collecting in the practice before the patients were leaving. So that's a great way to boost that revenue. And then also patients who weren't paying, putting into place a protocol. Lots of offices struggle, like what do we do after we've called them so many times? So team members get discouraged. They don't call because they don't actually know, what am I supposed to do to collect payments? One of my favorite companies is called Medento. They came out through COVID and they actually help you guys do text to pay statements. Flex, if you guys use Open Dental, is another great company. We helped this office put into place a true billing protocol so that way they were able to collect money regularly. So that was tip number 1. Tip number 2 is we were able to increase their new patient count. And we did simple things. I noticed that they had drive-by traffic. So he didn't have a lot of money. He was just bought a practice, and I like to get real creative and scrappy. And so we put outside signs and banners. He was by Dunkin' Donuts. We worked with Dunkin' Donuts to collaborate. So, they could share their patients to come on over, people going through Dunkin' Donuts. We worked with that. We also just put these like cheapo signs, and those brought in a ton of new patients because they could actually see his practice on drive-by traffic. Also, I listed Ryan Gross. I have a love-hate with dental marketing. And Ryan Gross, he tends to be one of my favorite marketers, which is why I put his information on here. He takes a very conservative approach and actually gets results, which I've struggled. I feel like a lot of times we spend a lot of money. He's very, very cost-effective and gets results. So he was able to help boost those numbers up. We also implemented Swell. If you guys don't have it, I'll pop this in the chat. swellcx.com. This is one of my favorite companies because they boosted his Google reviews. So we're able to bring in more new patients for him. And Swell, I know there's lots of companies. There's Bird's Eye, there's Podium. Swell CX came out. They're very inexpensive. If you let them know that the Dental Aid team sent you, I know their prices have definitely increased, but they're still honoring our fees. They average, I tested them on several offices, and they average about 100. One of my best offices was 110 Google reviews in 1 month. My worst office was 35 Google reviews in 1 month, and they consistently hold that number of Google reviews. So by doing those 2 things, combining, or 3 things, outside signs, using Ryan Gross and Swell, Ryan Gross didn't come in for about 8 months. We just recently added him to try and see if we could boost those new patient numbers. So that's exactly what we did to get those new patients up. And I'm always struggling because I used to pay my team for Google reviews, like if they could get their patients to give them Google reviews. And when I tested Swell out, they were just constantly above all the other companies. So that's just a tip for you guys. If it's helpful, fantastic. I really, really love them. The texting AR is, thank you. I love that you guys are asking questions. Please ask. So it's Medento is the company. I put that in the chat for you. Medento.io. They actually integrate straight into your software for you. So all those COVID forms, they actually go straight into the software, no scanning, none of that. So it's really, really helpful. And I know Medento and also Swell were able to get together. So if that's helpful for you at all, but I just noticed for this office that they were able to then grow their new patients, which was able to then increase their revenue. We also, it's going to sound kind of silly. I don't think a lot of doctors realize that we increase the doctor's confidence. So we did monthly coaching calls. We worked on integrity. So what he would say to the promises he made to himself and the promises he made to his team, he actually followed through on that. And it's crazy because if you guys want to have a good boost of confidence, instead of saying, we're going to work out 5 times this week and then you don't do it, you feel terrible. Like scale it back. I'm only going to work out 1 time this week, and hold those little promises to yourself and your team. Be the leader. When you say, hey, I'll be right back, you actually come right back. All those different things can really help you guys out for sure. And that's going to be one of the things you're able to do. Also, I had him really work on affirmations to remind himself that he really is an incredible doctor, and his moral obligation is to save patients from bad dentistry. I'll say that again. His moral obligation is to save patients from bad dentistry. Because he's like, well, Kara, what if the patients all dry up? Or what if I don't have dentistry? And I said, the reality is, if you're a good doctor and you do good work, patients will always come to you. Just do the right thing and remind yourself, you have a moral obligation to save patients from bad dentistry. That's what I'm on a mission for, is to help doctors grow their practices to save patients from bad dentistry. And so we helped him do that. We helped him realize story versus fact. Is he just telling himself a story of, I'm not that great of a doctor, I'm not that great of a leader, patients don't necessarily want to take treatment? And I said, is that really true? Like, do you have facts about that? And he said, no, I don't. So we helped him start looking, what are the facts that are empowering? And truly, just by boosting that doctor confidence, he was able to present better treatment plans. He had the confidence to let the patients know exactly what they needed. And it sounds so basic. That's what I love about what we do. It's basic. These things are not like the sexy things of like, oh, we're going to go do this external marketing. No, these are basic, simple things. Go put a sign up outside of your practice. Very simple, basic things. And I'm a big believer, let's turn the dial 1 degree, 2 degrees, and get massive results. So it's not hard, very easy, simple things for you guys to implement. We also, as you see behind, that you guys have right here, there was a way to track on the whiteboard how his production was doing. And some people get weird about this, like, I don't want to track my numbers. And I say, let's flip that. For me, as an office manager, as a dental assistant, I look at those production numbers, and as they increase, I believe that that's more patients that we're able to help. We're able to, because honestly, as those production numbers go up, that's more patients that we're helping. We're able to do great dentistry in the community. And so for him to track his numbers to see, they say that which is tracked and measured improves exponentially. So he was able to see, he had it in his office. He didn't want to share it with his whole team. That's totally fine. And you guys are able to track these. And so him tracking it really was able to help. I'm seeing, hopefully not by not putting down the dentistry already seen in patient sitting in your chair. Yeah, no, definitely, you definitely never, ever like negatively speak about another colleague. We always just say, even if you see bad dentistry that was done, if we see something that wasn't maybe the best, I teach our doctors to say, because they could say, well, I just had this crown done by this doctor and I thought they were fantastic. And all I say to that is, today, we now know that this is where we're at. We never, ever put down another doctor. We never, ever discourage that. But I do believe that there are some doctors out there that don't do great dentistry. And so we're able to then transform that, and you be the practice that does the great dentistry. never, ever put another doctor down. And I think that's an easy phrase that you guys can use of, like, we don't know what happened before, and there's no reason to say anything other than, I'm sure they were great. Today, I know that this is where we're at, and this is how we're going to help you get healthy. So that's a really great way, you guys, if you see that dentistry that maybe wasn't as great or to your standards, you're able to switch it around. So tracking their numbers, thank you for bringing that up, Jill. That was a great point. I appreciate that. So, and another thing we did in this practice were end of day and end of month checklists. As teams, I tell them, hey, this is your way to get your gold star to high five on your way out of the practice. No one wants to be driving home and forget that we shut off the pumps, or did we take care of this? So these end of day, end of month checklists were really helpful, especially this CEO end of month checklist. This is what he was checking for himself to make sure all these little parts of the business were taken care of. And his teams were able to have a quick end of day checklist focusing on the most important things. So it's kind of like a small KPI that they're then able to definitely check on throughout the day. So those are some simple things. Most important things having the team focus on was how this practice was able to transform.
Hey,
so you guys just heard.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Of course.
So when you first came into this office, they're doing 350,000. What was the first reaction from the team? Were they enthusiastic? Were they excited, or oh no, we have to change everything? What was their attitude?
That's a really great question. Some teams are really just excited, and other teams are like, no way, we don't want to do this. We're too busy as it is. And what I found, the common denominator really comes from what is the doctor's approach to it. Is the doctor excited for change, or are they resistant to change? Because whatever that doctor as the leader is putting out, that team's going to pick up. And then that was obviously over the course of a year and a half. So just like you guys, when you see a patient who needs a lot of dentistry done, you break it down into phases. So, hey, let's start here. Here's the biggest pain point. What are you guys struggling with? And the office manager said, I don't know how to do billing. Okay, great. Let's do billing, and I'm going to help you out to get this protocol. So instead of feeling like it was, hey, here's all these things we've got to do, it was, what are your needs? What are your problems? Let's put this in as a solution. So that was definitely what they were not excited to make an operations manual, which some offices want to do, others don't. We're like, fantastic. That's not a priority right now. Let's focus on these other areas. So all those systems that were built, though, whether they wanted to see it or not, were actually protocols we could put in an operations manual. So that way the whole team can function more efficiently later on, but not overwhelming the team as soon as we got there. Awesome question, Art. I love that.
Thank you.
The question was asked, was I there from the first day after the purchase? The answer is no. I started with this practice about a month. I think it was a month to 3 months. I can't remember the exact time frame since the time he purchased it to when I was able to get there. So I think he bought it in January. I could be totally making this up. And I was there in April. So it was about a 3 to 4 month period before I was able to be there. So he had kind of settled in, but had not gone through the full 6 month period before. Great question. Other questions? You guys can ask questions, put them in the chat, ask any questions. I want to make sure you guys are totally confident and see from his example, from that practice where he literally went from 350 up to $1 million at a 50% overhead. What's something from there that you're like, oh, let's have that. Write that down. I would love to hear what you guys are planning to implement, something that you could take as a nugget, as a gem to implement into your practice to make it maybe that 1 degree notch better. And it can be simple things like, oh, I'm going to change up my end of week checklist, or we're going to implement, like, Kira, send us that billing checklist, how that was, because we're going to take that and implement that. It could be, we're going to contact Swell. That's what it is. What are some of those things that you guys are seeing from this practice that could possibly make yours a little bit better? I see accountability to all with the checklist. Yes, I love that, because I used to hate to go around as an office manager and say, hey, Sarah, did you get this done? Hey, Mallory, did you get this done? Felt like I was like a seagull manager. I'd come in, squawk a lot, and then take off. And I hated it. I would dread it. And so put those end of day checklists in place. It's a quick high five. I loved it as a team member because, sweet, I checked this off during the day. I know I got everything done. And it's great accountability for all, especially when we're all working on different projects. So awesome. The end of day checklist for everyone. Yes. I will give a quick tip on those end of days. And if you guys want a sample, please email me. I've got our email on most of the slides for you guys. I'm happy to share any samples to make your life easier, whatever it is. We always customize for our practices. So I can just send you a quick sample and you can make it your own. If you're going to do end of day checklists, I like to make those on hot colored items. So hot pink, hot green, hot yellow, hot orange. So they're bright, and I let people choose their favorite color and then laminate them so they can be reusable. So they turn them in at the end of the night. Office manager does a quick spot check on it, wipes them clean, gives them back at the morning huddle. So it's a good way to just yin and yang. You guys can write notes like, great job, or hey, notice that the trash wasn't taken out. Let's create a solution for this. So that really helps a lot to be like environmental friendly, make it kind of fun for your team. I've done stickers. I've done all sorts of different things. Believe it or not, the dental college, the way I got the dentist to do things was by stickers, gold stars. It was crazy. As soon as I started implementing these sticker gold stars, students would bring me clean endo buckets. I would get my denture teeth back clean if they got a gold star for it. So similar with your team, you can pass out gold stars, other things like that. So that really, really can help out a lot. Awesome job, guys. I love the engagement. I love you guys saying what you're going to do, because that's how you take this into your own practice. All right. Are you guys ready? Practice number 2. So this practice, I love this practice. I worked with this practice, now for quite a while, actually. So this is a snippet in the time that we've worked together. I did not meet them right when they started. They were already a very successful, well-established practice. Systems were running really, really, really well. So the first one I showed you was more of a basic one. This was much more elite of a practice. So it's harder. Sometimes those smaller ones are easy to get massive growth. I love ones that are a tricky challenge where we're just turning the dial a small amount, seeing massive, massive changes. So this practice is generating 1.25 million. They had a 45% overhead. So they're doing rockin' awesome. They work 4 days a week, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily, because they're parents. It's a husband-wife duo. They've got little kids, and they really want to be home with their kids. That's their main focus. They have three hygienists, 6 operatories, 2 doctors, 3 front office. Okay, small little practice. It's humming. This is what we were able to do. So 1 year later, you guys can see the before. We went up to 2 million. So we did about a pretty big increase, but I feel like when you're in the millions, not that much. But the big piece was the 35% overhead drop. So 45% to 35% was a pretty substantial drop. Still working the same amount of days, same hygienist, same operatories, same doctors, same front office. Okay. So really all we did was increase their revenue, lower their overhead. And when you start to get into this of how do you make it more profitable, what do you do? And this, we weren't 100% targeted on increasing their profitability. We weren't necessarily focused on reducing their overhead. These were kind of byproducts of just systematizing their practice. So this is what we did. This sounds so silly, but we revamped their morning huddle. So this is 35% overhead seems impossible. I agree. They are in a higher state, but what they do is they're very, very savvy on how they run. They just do a lot of things differently, but I will say that their team is very well compensated. They're just smart with how they do it. So they could be buying all this new stuff, but they're not always. And something else you guys will see is they actually bumped their production heavily with bigger cases. So you'll see what was going on. The question was, what was the motivation in hiring our team? So a practice like this, they're already doing great. I mean, I think a lot of doctors would say, yeah, let's buy that practice. That would be a phenomenal practice. And the answer is they wanted us to come in and see what they weren't doing, where they could improve. This office had listened to the podcast. And as a lot of you know, Mark Costas in DSI, he and I work together in tandem on a lot of things. He's got DSI, I've got dental A team. But they kind of tried a few things. They wanted more of a team approach. They said, Kira, you work with a lot of offices, come into our practice and see where the blind spots where we're not actually seeing it. So the dental A team, something that sets us apart is we fly to your practice if you want. And a lot of offices love that because we hear this and we say, but my practice is different, right? All of our practices are different. So we come in with a very customized approach and we just look for blind spots and bring the whole team together. So this office wanted blind spots found and they said, come in. We just want you to check our systems. And I will tell you guys, when I walked into this practice, I thought, I'm not sure what I need to do in this practice because it was a very systematized practice. I've actually snagged some of their systems, the things that they were doing. I share with all of our offices. That's what I love. I get to be a little sponge that goes into all these different practices, pull the best ideas, share them with each other, share them with you. Because and I get to play Johnny Appleseed. I get to plant little seeds, see how they grow. Did that work? Did it not work? So what I'm sharing with you are things that are tested and tried in hundreds of different offices to ensure they work. So that was their motivation in hiring us, is come help us be even better. And I love offices that want to do that, because then it's like, let's turn the dial. Let's see where we can really help them. So this office, we did a morning huddle revamp, and one of my dear friends, Summer Casmel, I love that she changed this to calling it a win of the day. So when they got together morning huddle, this office was already doing morning huddle. That's no surprise. They had great systems. And so what we did is we actually changed it a little bit in the morning huddle to do a win of the day. How do we actually win the day? And when I talked with Summer, this was something I loved about her practice, because they track the numbers. But for a hygienist, let's say their goal is to get to 1,000. Well, they come into morning huddle, most morning huddles, the office manager usually, who knows their numbers really well, says, okay, today, guys, we're at this production. We need this much. We need this much. And at the end of those morning huddles, I love to say, okay, guys, so how much do we need to do today? No one but the office manager usually knows. So what I wanted to do with this one was I wanted to get the whole team involved. So hygienists coming and saying, okay, my goal is $1,000 a day. I'm at $950, and this is my goal of how I'm going to get that extra 50 today to beat my goal. So that was something that they really loved. Yes, this office, you guys, they had huddle before 6 a.m. So their team loves their schedule. They have a military culture, and so they love to get in early and get out early. So whenever I go there, I fly from the West Coast to the East Coast, and I got to wake up in the morning because it is a very early morning, but they are ready to go. They huddle at 6 a.m. and they start seeing patients at 6:15. So that's how they run their schedule. And it's very, very, very systematized, very put together. Their patients, I'm shocked. They have an elderly patient base and they show up early. But I think that's that military culture that they're able to then get to the practice early. And that's just the culture and the style there. They figured out what worked, and it works really, really well. So in their morning huddle, they would be checking to see and tracking their numbers really closely. So this is a sample of what we did. They would do a role play some days, but when everybody comes prepared to huddle of how they're going to win the day, how they're going to help the practice win the day, that really helps. Also, hygienists, they were doing great with their fluoride. They're already giving fluoride. And so Heidi Arndt, she does hygiene diamonds. And I loved something she said. I give massive credit to her on this. She called it Fluoride Therapy. And that's where you take a fluoride varnish and then send them home with fluoride toothpaste. So she calls that Fluoride Therapy. And I was like, this is mind-blowing genius. So this office, their hygienists are very driven. And so they were up for the challenge, and they started to implement Fluoride Therapy, which I tell everyone, I was the patient that I didn't have decay. I didn't have problems. And people would never offer me fluoride, and it bothered me because they assumed that I didn't want it. And I tell people, no, I actually care about longevity of my teeth. I care about this so much. And I loved that they were able to then offer me fluoride toothpaste. I had no clue. So if you guys want, some patients love it, other hygienists don't. It's really what's best for the patient, what's best for your practice. But this office, they have an older patient base. So they decided they want to start offering fluoride therapy in their practice, and their hygienists were tracking it daily, and they loved it. So it was something that the hygienists saw a great need. They had a great elderly patient base, and they're able to to do the fluoride and then send them home with toothpaste to give them great patient care. I see that it sounds like an Aspen model. I've actually been to Aspen before. I don't usually work with corporate. We usually just work with private practice. And I've never seen it in Aspen, but I do know that Heidi, who works with all private practices, I really loved that approach. And as a patient, even not getting it, I did love that at least it was offered to me. I have the opportunity to say no. But at the same time, patients that might have never known it was even an option. I didn't even know fluoride was an option until I became a dental assistant. I'm like, what? All this time? This has never been offered to me once. So just finally hearing that it was an option, I think oftentimes patients just knowing what their options are. And I think as healthcare providers, offering that dentistry really can be helpful. I just loved that I was able to take care of my teeth and find a way to be proactive and preventative with the fluoride toothpaste. So that was something that was really great for this practice. Another thing that we were able to do is this was probably our biggest change. And with COVID, I think it's such a great option for you guys, is we were actually able to make the back office treatment coordinators. So being a dental assistant myself, I feel like we're able to truly, we're able to present treatment on a clinical basis. We know dentistry, we know the treatment, and I think front office can do it as well. But at the same time, back office just knows, they know how to do it. And so what I did, this was one of the blind spots coming in there. I'm like, I don't know. They've got so many great systems. What can we implement? So for this one, what we did is we were able to help the back office learn how to present treatment plans chair side, help them gain the confidence. I taught them how to read ledgers, and we role played like crazy. Every single time we go there, we role play how to present treatment plans, because treatment plans are really just a psychology of assuming patients want treatment, of assuming that they're going to say yes, and helping them get the best dental care that they possibly can. So on this, we had a magic flow. So it starts with the doctors. The doctors, I love this little, it's just a nice little bundle. You guys can remember it however you want. North Dakota totally rocks, or Nevada dentist totally rock, or one associate dentist told me he remembers this by new dentist, tough road. So whatever's going to work for you. This NDTR is just a simple little phrase that if your office will do, it was a really good, it's just a nice little flow to your treatment planning, and it helps all the team have a perfect handoff. So what that is the doctors will do their comprehensive exam and then say what your next visit is. So that next visit is, hey, Kira, we've got some work to do. We're going to get started on that upper right. I want to get started with that crown. Okay. So that's the next visit. And then from there, the date to return. And some doctors have controversy over that of, well, Kira, they don't have to come back in 2 weeks. Other, like, they could wait 6 months. And I agree with you. I'm not here to say, guys, dentistry is not my world of like, you guys can debate on all the clinical aspects. That's not my world. Art brought me in to tell you some systems, and that's what I'm here to do. But I found that if I were to say to you, hey, Art, when can you do lunch? Or, let's do lunch. When can you do it? The first thing I guarantee that pops into your mind is all the things of what's on your schedule. Tomorrow I've got this meeting. This one I've got this meeting. I can't do it here. So I've already, by asking you, when can you do it? Or, you just come back when you want. That is a zone where now you're already in a zone of no versus being in a zone of yes. So if I say, hey, Art, I'd love to see you back in 2 weeks. Fantastic. Now you know in 2 weeks, am I free or am I not free? So it just helps people to get a point of, it doesn't mean their tooth's going to decay in 2 weeks. It doesn't mean you have to see them in 2 weeks. I don't care when you do it. You can say, I would like to see you within the next month. I'd like to see you whenever our schedules align, the soonest that our schedules align. But what that does is it puts an urgency, because if you diagnosed it, let's get it done. But also it helps me not to think of no, helps me look for how I can say yes to you. So it's just putting your patients in a yes frame of mind versus a no frame of mind.
Hey,
and then
Kira,
how much?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things that I've seen in management is that it's really important that the doctor's clinical philosophy is on the same page as the assistant and as the hygienist, because doctor walks out of the room and then what does the patient do? The patient says to the assistant, do I really need all this work? And then the assistant goes, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about, or she doesn't know what he's talk about that for a second. How important is it for the whole team to be clinically on the same page as where the doctor's philosophy is?
Absolutely. I suggest that you guys mimic and mirror is what I suggest. So, and I tell assistants never in front of a patient, but if you're wondering like, why did the doctor diagnose that? Ask them, say, hey, Dr. Smith, like I want to be your best assistant and I want to make sure I understand exactly why you recommended that crown. I didn't see it. So can you teach me what you were looking for so I can better prepare the patient and be on your same page? I teach teams, whatever the doctor says. So if the doctor says, hey, Kiera, we want to get this crown fixed. Fantastic. I'm going to say, hey, Art, Dr. Smith wants to get that crown fixed. I literally mimic and mirror exactly what my doctor's saying and being on the same page. So, and I say for assistants and for hygienists and for all team members, you've got to trust your doctor 100%. And if not, like maybe find a different job because you got to back that doctor. So if a patient asks me, well, do I really need this? Absolutely. I back my doctor 110%. And if I don't agree with that treatment or I don't know, my job as the team is to go ask my doctor, hey, explain this to me because I want to back you 110%. So help me understand. And I teach team members, I'm not questioning my doctor. I trust that they went to school. They got the letters behind their name. I don't. I just want to understand so I can better support my doctor and then mimic and mirror and practice with your team. Whatever doctor says, have the team say the same thing So the patient's hearing it from all of us and not my version and your version and this person's version. So there's a continuity and a flow. Awesome question, Art. Absolutely. Yes. So that was, and then the time needed for the appointment, because oftentimes when we're doing these handoffs, you might say, okay, we need to get you back for a crown. Well, I've never needed a crown before. So I'm like, whew, I got to clear the day. I'm going to be here for 8 hours. I don't even know. So if we tell them how much time, like, and I need you back for just a quick hour and a half. Oh, it's only an hour and a half. Okay, I could make that work. So by doing this perfect little bundle, and you can make up your own variation, I have doctors like translate it. New associates have told me they love this because it helps them when they're right out of school, just kind of get into a rhythm of how their exams could go. And I will tell you, if you follow this, I've helped offices go from 50% case acceptance to 100% case acceptance, because I say the goal is when the patient leaves the operatory to schedule their appointment, that they actually know how, like they know what they're being scheduled for, when they need to come back, and how much time. Because then the patient's basically already committed to it. They already know what they need. They're like, yep, sounds great. And it makes that treatment planning much easier. So helping the doctors tee it up, and then the assistant scheduling. So we're putting emphasis on scheduling and the treatment. And then we discuss the finances. And I tell everyone, I trust my doctors. If they're going to diagnose it, my job is to make sure that this happens. My job is to make sure that I find the solution with the patient to make their treatment work. And so that's not saying I don't care about their insurance or I don't care about any of these things. I do. And I'm going to maximize that. My job is to help get the treatment scheduled, because I trust my doctor. And if they're going to diagnose it, I'm going to find a way to help my patients get yes, and to say yes to it and make it so it's great for them. And not all patients are cost. So I help people overcome assuming just because I think it's cost does not mean they think it's cost. Seeing what do those patients care about? Is it function? Is it longevity? Is it cost? Or is it cosmetic? What do they care the most about? And let's make sure we get those outcomes and results from it. So in this practice, we really took the time to get really great handoffs between doctors and teams, making sure that the patient was getting the exact same experience from front to back. So that was another piece that we did. And then we also had, like I mentioned, the assistants were scheduling first, and this was the verbiage of it. And the reason why is because when we schedule first, most of the time it's like, okay, Kira, here's your crown, and it's going to be $1,500, and your insurance is going to cover this. And then we say yes or no, we negotiate, and then I go to schedule. And what I found is if you actually reverse that and you schedule them first, we're putting the emphasis on treatment. So instead of it being on the cost, my job, you guys, there's 1,000 different solutions to cost. My job's to find that. So let's schedule. I'm going to assume my doctor said it. We're doing the treatment. Let's get that scheduled. And then I'm able to overcome objections. So in the back office, they can schedule for you. So, and the objection is like, well, how much is this going to cost? Absolutely. I want you to know 100%. Doctor is super busy. So let's get you in his schedule first, or her schedule. Let's make sure we reserve that time for you. And then we'll, like, Kira up front's great with numbers. She'll talk to you about that. But there's a lot of ways that you guys can overcome those objections. And this really helps your patients have a great experience. It just reverses it a little bit. So I love the assume the yes. I love that, Jeanette. Assume the yes. I tell people, you could assume whatever you want. We have no idea what these patients are thinking. We don't. Some people are like, oh, they can't afford it. Okay, great. You're always going to find patients who can't afford it. Some people are like, oh, they never want to do implants. Great. You're going to find patients who never can do implants, because as humans, we have to find a way to make ourselves right. So I'm like, great. We have no clue. I don't know what Art's thinking over there. I don't know what you guys are thinking. I can assume you guys love this presentation. I can assume that you hate this presentation. Either way, who's right? I don't know. You could pop it in the chat and I could get facts, or I can go into this and assume, thanks, Lisa, appreciate that. I can assume you guys love this, and I'm going to act that you guys love this. Just like I'm going to assume that a patient wants their treatment because our doctor and our practice is amazing. And I'm going to start to create that in my practice. I'm going to come in with a confidence. I'm going to find the solutions. So I tell people, when I was a treatment coordinator, I used to be terrified. I couldn't close a case. I looked like, guys, I got freckles. I had braces. I looked like I was 12 years old. And I'm like, hey, let's pay some money. And I'm like, I look like I can't even drive a car. So that was who I was when I started as a treatment coordinator. And then when I ended my career at my practice that we took from, I worked with a student straight out of Midwestern, and we took our first practice from 500,000 to 2.4 million, and bought our second practice 8 months after we were out of school. And I was closing cases, and when I left that and started the consulting business, that my average treatment plan was 60 to 80,000, and I would close it same day and take a credit card payment for it. And I tell people there is really not a lot of difference between a $150 treatment plan and an $80,000 treatment plan. The reality is the same. I'm going to assume that my doctor is amazing, and I'm going to assume that you need this treatment. And my job is just to find a solution for how you're going to pay for it, how we're going to do it. So I get to create that reality. People say, yeah, but they didn't say anything. How many times have I dropped a number of $5,000 and you're like, okay, so I know I'm going to get a tax return, and I know I've got to take Sally to dance, and you're thinking through all these things. Just because I'm not speaking doesn't mean I'm saying no. But so often we panic and we jump right in and say, nope, okay, so we've got all these financing options. And then the patient's like, well, I've got like all this going on, plus you're offering me all these things. Like, no, there's too much. So helping people overcome this psychology. So I worked with this whole team at this practice. So hygienists knew how to present treatment plans, front office knew, and dental assistants. And you will be shocked. They even got to the point where they could actually collect payment in the back, which might scare a lot of you. Like, nope, clinical does not do money. That's fine. Everyone has their own opinions. But this office was able to do it, and that's how we're able to grow it. So, and then I taught them, like I was just mentioning, we used magic words. So I found, again, going back to that, assuming the yes, you get to create your own reality. You do. So a lot of times people say, hey, could I get an appointment? It's like, well, I can try. Instead of using that phrase, let's use absolutely, absolutely. That feels so much better. Your patients are going to respond to you better. Instead of saying, but. So, hey, Kira, you're really good, but I want to talk to you about this. Swap that but out for, hey, Kira, you're really great, and I want to talk to you about this. So I'm not negating it. So we created this form, and you guys like snag it. This is great for your team members, of words to use and words not to use. So just changing a couple of these ways that we're presenting it started getting different results for their team, and then saying it out loud so they could actually hear it. I put on here of how to do the treatment plan. Like a magic way to do it is you actually print the treatment plan, or you have it on an iPad. You just point to the numbers. You don't say it out loud. So it's something I learned. If I say your treatment plan's $80,000, well, that all of a sudden sounds scary and terrifying, because $80,000. If I just point to it, that's a nice little 8 with a few zeros behind it. We can just move along. And so just pointing, that actually is a psychology. My background before I became a dental consultant was actually was going to be a marriage and family therapist. So I was actually headed to grad school, had a Fluoride scholarship, and I was sitting in my interview, and I remember thinking, how's that crown seat going back there? Like, I really miss my office. And all I could do was think about dentistry. And that's when I knew I didn't want to be a marriage and family therapist. I really loved being able to like sit there and talk to people versus them talking to me as a dental assistant, right? We're working in their mouth. And now I brought my love for helping people, my love for dentistry into our consulting company. So that was the psychology behind it. I learned a lot of psychology. So pointing to the numbers versus saying it, you lead with the total cost of the treatment instead of saying insurance. So oftentimes I hear with treatment plans, people will say, okay, so your treatment plan, it looks like your insurance is going to cover or is estimated. I'm like, oh, we just set up a practice for insurance. Like, that's all the patient's going to think about, because we led with insurance, and that was a choice we made. I read a phrase by Don Miller, and he said, words are free, so use them. And I love that, because we get to choose the words we use. They're free. So let's use the words that are empowering versus disempowering and figure out exactly where we're headed with it. So if we lead with, hey, the total to get that crown done, to get that beautiful smile, is going to be this. It looks like your insurance is estimated to pay this. So you're out of pocket when I see you on Wednesday, because remember, they're already scheduled, is this. So that's really going to help your team. That's going to help all of you guys just get better acceptance by using words and phrases that lead to a yes, that are more positive. And overall, everyone loves to hear, like, hey, can you help me with that? Absolutely. You pay attention to Disneyland, you pay attention to these large organizations that have incredible customer service. This is where a lot of our words and phrases came from that we picked up over the years in our consulting company. We have several consultants that have come from all walks of life. We've all been back office people. We've all been front office people. And so we bring all that knowledge together and then give you guys the best that we have, and we're constantly improving it for you. So this form, you guys, it's one of my favorite forms that we've ever done. We use it in our case acceptance events, where we teach people how to do a lot more treatment planning. And I basically take that event and take it to this practice and teach their whole team in their practice. I sit there, I listen to their treatment plans, I help them Small little 1% changes get massive results. And then with the treatment plan, we also had a treatment tracker for follow-up. So this is a shared document. So everyone, and yes, I know dental intelligence, there's lots, and I know Art loves dental intelligence. I do too. Shout out to Jerem. He's one of my favorites. And I know that they have analytical tracking software for your case acceptance. 100%, I don't disagree with that. What we did in this practice that I found is when I have to manually track it, that's kind of a pain point. And so by having your team, and I'm not saying like inflict pain on your team, that's not it at all. We're just trying to change habits. And so if I have to write down all of my case acceptance, I didn't like having to write it all down. That wasn't my favorite thing to do. But then I started to see what my actual case acceptance was, what treatment plans I wasn't closing because I saw this visual going on. And then also in addition to that, I made it where if I closed the case, I didn't have to write it down. So then I was only writing down the cases I was closing. Well, guess what? I started getting a lot better at closing my cases because that meant I didn't have to write it down and track it. But then the cases that didn't close, I was able to look at this and say, okay, I'm not closing my implants. What's going on? I would record myself on my phone. This sounds ridiculous. I'm doing this with an office right now where we're recording their treatment plans, obviously keeping it HIPAA compliant. Let's not get crazy. We're not breaking any rules out there. There's no rule breaking. But I have them actually listen back to their treatment plans. You're exactly right, Jeanette. Self-analysis. So what am I saying versus what I think I'm saying? And I use the example on these treatment trackers is, you guys, one time, and I'm glad I'm not doing it on this event. Art might have panicked inviting me here. There's this one event I decided to do, and I wanted to drive home a point. So I decided that I was going to get on the Wii and I was going to dance to Michael Jackson. Okay. So I was like, this is going to be the best thing in the world. I'm going to do this presentation in front of hundreds of people and I'm going to record myself of dancing like Michael Jackson. And I had a point that I was going to prove. So you guys, I don't know if you see, I went into this dance. My husband was recording me and I go in and I give it everything I've got. And in my mind, I'm MJ himself. Like I am right on track with him. And then all of a sudden I hear my husband in the back kind of start giggling. And I was like, oh no, I don't know why I thought this would be a great idea. And it's funny because in my mind, I was Michael Jackson. Like I was doing the exact moves as he was. Like I was doing the bend. I was doing everything. Like I looked so great. I could moonwalk. And then I watched my video and you guys, I was a white girl who could not dance. Like when he's going this way, I was going this way. It was pathetic. But in my mind, I thought I was Michael Jackson. And that's why I love having people track this because in our minds, we might think we're getting 100% case acceptance. Every time I talk to offices, I'm like, what's your case acceptance? Like, we're sitting like 85, 90. I'm like, have you tracked it? No. Most offices on average about a 65 to 70% case acceptance on a good day. Most are sitting closer to like a 55 when we actually start tracking it. So we inflate those numbers. I did it too. As a treatment coordinator, I would say, I do this. I'm like a 90% case acceptance. And when I tracked it, I was a 65. So it helped me see using this tracker. Yes, handwriting it out seems kind of crazy. Do it for a couple of months. Look for the patterns, look for where I'm struggling, and then figure out how I can change that. It's typically, and I tell a lot of treatment coordinators, a lot of back office, this office in particular, it's usually one or two words that are losing the case or getting a no versus a yes. And if you just change them, you'll get it. So for example, today I coached an office. We listened to it. One of the first things she said was, do you have a budget? So I asked her, like, we listened to the whole thing together and I said, hey, what did you notice in it? And she's like, well, I noticed I did this and this, and I didn't listen as much. And I said, did you catch that you led with, do you have a budget? He said, I only want what my insurance covers. And I'm like, you were stuck at that point. You lost it right there because you led with, do you have a budget? So I'm really excited. She's going to change it up. She's going to lead with what they're looking for. They're looking for a smile. They're looking for confidence. She's going to lead with that. It's just a small shift. That's it. She's no longer asking for, do you have a budget? What is your outcome? And then let's find the solution within that budget.
So what, Kira, can I jump in and ask you a question?
Absolutely,
overcoming
please.
Objections.
Yes.
I can't afford this. Oh, my kid's going to college. How do you help maybe some tips on how do we overcome the objections while the patient's in the chair and you're presenting the treatment plan?
It's a great question. So most of the time people think it's cost, and that's the first way to overcome. Don't assume that it's cost. Just go in with an open slate and assume that they're going to say yes to you. So that's number one. Number two is I found that typically an objection means they're not connected to the treatment for some reason. So I ask the phrase, and most people say, do you have any questions, Art? No, I don't. See you later, Kira. If I say, what questions do you have? I just opened up for Art to now have a conversation versus a yes or no. So looking for ways for conversation versus a yes or no. They say, I can't afford it. I'm like, okay, so what was the ballpark you were looking for? Let's find a solution. And let's make sure, do you want to solve your teeth? Do you want to fix this? Like, what's the outcome? Notice I just said 2 do yous. So I kept talking until I got to a what. So what is the outcome you're looking for? What are your long-term goals? I'm going to spin you back around to what your long-term goals are. And then I'm going to say, fantastic. My job's to find a solution for you. Are you looking for in-house financing or do you prefer third party? So I'm always coming with these, instead of a yes or no, do you prefer in-house financing or third party? What ballpark were you looking for, Art? You're like, I'm looking for 5,000. Fantastic. Let's just do pay today and pay when I see you on crown seat day. So often we present all these options that people get overwhelmed and we're not actually answering their true problem. We're answering their assumed problem. If they say, hey, Kira, I got to check my work schedule. I know that there's something that didn't connect and they're giving me an excuse to get out the door. So I say, hey, absolutely. What questions do you have for me? Because I want to make sure, get to work, we can check the schedule. What questions do you have? So that way you're prepared. Sometimes they'll tell me, sometimes they won't. But if it's the work, I'm always like, hey, absolutely. Let's pop you on the schedule. Like I'll just reserve a spot. That way I, Kira Dent, because I'm ditzy over here, or I'm going to forget about you, which is 100% true. I would hate to forget about you. So let's pop you on the schedule. And then when you get to work, if it doesn't work, give me a call. But this way, I don't let you slip through the cracks. They will say yes 95% of the time if I spin it that way, because people like to feel important. And the honest to goodness truth is I'm busy. I'm answering phones. I'm seeing a lot of patients. I truly don't want to forget about you. So coming from that genuine place, spinning to the what questions do you have really can help. And like I said, it's 1 or 2 little simple words. I have a question from Jen. It says, do you recommend doctors present the dollars? Oh, good question. I love questions like this. Answer is yes and no. Doctor, if you are confident in who you are and you're not going to give away the farm and you're not going to give discounts, by all means, I'm totally fine with doctors presenting dollars. Most of the time though, when doctors talk dollars, they're like, oh, when we could give you like a 20% off, or we could give you $100 off, or, we could do it. Just stop. No, you're a great dentist. Don't devalue who you are and don't devalue your work. So that's often why I say have a person there. But docs, I don't mind if you give a ballpark as long as you don't discount. I think it actually can work really, really well. And I've seen very successful practices have doctors present treatment plans. Awesome question. And then another question, Amit says, when you have a large treatment plan, how do you offer financing without making it sound like you are assuming they need financing? Some people won't ask, they just don't book. Great question. So first of all, large treatment plans, first step, let's schedule it first, okay? So emphasis is on treatment, not on money. We're going to do the treatment. I'm just going to find out the solutions. So now I present the dollars, right? So it's going to be 80,000, insurance is this, here it is, and I'm silent, okay? It's called the art of silence. They will speak on the other side. It can feel super awkward, but I know they're going to talk. And if I start talking, they're not going to get their questions answered, and I'm probably going to lose this case. So I wait. They'll say something because they're already scheduled, and they'll come up with like, oh, do you have options? So that can be one zone there. Other times you can say, some of our patients love to pay in full. Others prefer financing. What do you prefer? So giving them that option, and you can come up with various different ways. And I say play with your treatment plans, because at the end of the day, there are no failures. There are just results. So is your acceptance the result you're looking for? And if not, let's play with it and change it until it becomes a success of what we're looking for. So fantastic question on that. I hope it answered. If not, just pop back in there. And I sometimes just straight up ask them, like, what questions do you have? What are some of the things holding you back? I want to make sure I solve that for you, because my job's here to solve it. So that way you get the smile that you want. Things like that. What are some of the objections? What are some of your concerns? Words like that. And again, you just play. It's a dance. Every practice is a little different, but most of the time asking what versus do you, and then assuming the yes. You're super welcome. All right, guys, let's move on. I want to make sure we have it. We talked about the perfect handoff. Okay, great. Doctor does the NDTR. Assistant says the same thing. Front office says the same thing. That's how this office was able to truly grow a lot. Also, doctors tracking their numbers. So knowing their numbers so they could hit their goal. This is from Open Dental. You guys can see the production numbers. You guys can actually make a view for doctors, hygienists. So every one of them can track their numbers. When I put provider views for every provider in the practice, and our consultants do it, you will be shocked at how much, just by seeing that number, it will actually increase. And not by looking for extra dentistry, not by doing anything unethical, It's not our jam, guys. I don't even like, no, thank you. That's not where we're at. It's just like they say, what's tracked and measured improves exponentially. So you can then see, so we had the doctors start tracking their numbers daily, seeing, because half the time it's just poor scheduling. Schedulers are like, fill this holes versus being proactive scheduling and actually looking for those holes. Excellent question. What's net versus gross? Oh, here we go. I'm going to teach you guys, and then we're going to roll through the next ones. Net versus gross. Okay, so net is the insurance portion. So gross, Mark Costa said something that no, you're good. I'll explain net versus gross. So I love something Mark Costa said one time. He said, gross feeds the ego, net feeds the family. And I love that because what happens is our gross, let's say in an office, you charge $1,500 for a crown, but Delta says $850. Okay, we can put in there $1,500 for all your crowns on the schedule. That's gross. Or and net can be your adjusted production. So it's either net or adjusted. So instead of having that $1,500, we need to attach a fee schedule. So it actually reduces from $1,500 down to $850. That way, and it's a gut punch. The day I entered fee schedules and started attaching them, it was a 30% drop. And I'm like, we're going out of business. That's like worse than getting coal in my stocking. I'm over this. No, thank you. But at the end of the day, the reality is I would rather see what we can actually collect versus an inflated number to make our egos feel better. And so that's the difference between gross and net. And I strongly, strongly advise you attach those fee schedules, see what you're getting written off. That's fine. You can renegotiate. There's some great insurance companies to renegotiate. This office used Unlock the PPO. There's some other ones. So we can deal with like the write-offs. But at the end of the day, I'd rather you have that true dollar amount that we can collect, because then our collections are more mirrored together and we're able to actually have a better knowledge of what we're producing versus having an inflated one. So I hope that answered your question, but that's the difference between, net and gross. All right. And the last thing we did to help them reduce their overhead was we implemented tip out bins. So this is Tiger. He works with Zen Dental Supplies, and I love these tip out bins. When I worked at Midwestern University, I was able to help reduce the college's spending because their storage room had everything in boxes. So we pulled everything out of boxes, we organized everything, and we were able to see all of our supplies versus having it in boxes. So with this office, they're in a teeny tiny spot. So we can put these tip out bins. They don't have a nice wall like this. It's very small, but we were able to then have better organization, less waste. We went to ordering twice a month. We had a whiteboard, so they just put it on there. These are the dates we're going to order. So we had less opportunities for ordering. So we were more efficient with it. We negotiated fees with labs. And then obviously increasing production did help reduce that overhead. They were already a really tight practice, you guys. So I'm not going to say like we were magical on it. These are the ways we were able to help increase their revenue and decrease their overhead in tandem. And this is one of my favorite things. Tiger is great. You guys can buy these bins, like just Google tip out bins. They're always changing of who the best supplier is. But I will say that having everything visible where you can see it makes it really easy. And some offices will put tape on those clear bins. So like when it gets below this mark, that's when we order. So it can actually make a lot easier for ordering, and it'll help reduce waste. So that was a lot on that practice. You guys asked some great questions. So my question is, what are you going to implement from this practice? What are you going to choose to do? And I want you guys to pop it in the chat. What was something you pulled from this office, from what we just spent all that time discussing, that you now are going to go take back to your practice to make it that 1% better, to just fine tune your systems and your processes to improve? What did you guys love from that you want to take back with you? Remember, going back to your guys' accountability, what is something that you can hold your team accountable to from this last one? I'll wait for you guys to pop them up. I love hearing from you. So thank you guys for sharing. I've got verbiage for treatment presentation. Fantastic. Ask open-ended questions. Excellent. Great. Not leading with insurance. I like you. That's a great one. Nice job on that. The treatment tracker. Good. I'm glad you guys like that one as well. Fantastic. Other things that you guys are popping in there. There is not assuming acceptance is a dependent with money and cost. Amen. Nice one. Someone said, would you please ask someone to contact my office? Absolutely. However we can help you. The dental aid team, you guys can contact us any way we can help out. All right, you guys, here's our last practice. And this one I'm really excited because this is a much larger practice. So this is a 7 location, 7 locations. What? Yes, ask the what. How do you present care credits? That's a great question, Jill. So hang on, I'm going to answer because this is your guys' webinar. So even though I've got slides, let's take time for you guys because this is your time and I want you to get the most out of this. So the question is, how do we present with care credit? And what I typically do is, so I ask if they prefer in-house or third-party financing. You guys, I didn't used to say that. An office had that verbiage and I thought it was spot on because it helped me. In-house, I do 2 or 3 payments with a credit card on file. Third-party financing, that's where I would go into care credit. So that's a great way. I work with Samir in care credit. I love him. You guys can find out how much care credit you're actually processing. Samir can give you a great overview. It's totally free. If you guys are using it, find out because that can help you guys with knowing if they're offering care credit, but that's typically how I did it. So I usually recommend 1, maybe 2 third-party financing, but I always just did care credit. And then I'd say, okay, fantastic. This is what it would be. And we can have it here. You know, your monthly payment could be this or this. Which do you prefer? I would approve them in the practice. I wouldn't send them home. I'd have them approve in the practice. So I'd have them get on a computer. Let's just see if you would get approved. And that would really help. So I know care credit's expensive. Something I do like about them though is your funds are all delivered up front. I know other third parties where it's like, we're the bank. I've seen offices get into really hot cash flow. So you might tell your team, hey, at this level, this is where we offer care credit if we're looking to increase our case acceptance. So it just depends. Another credit card company, Lending Tree, I've heard of. Other ones,
those are the
gosh,
two.
there's some. Those are my main 2 that I hear of often with third party. I know Abella does it, but you're more or compassionate financing. I say I love those. I think that they're great, but be really careful and have strict guidelines of when your team can offer that. Because like I said, I've seen some offices get into some hot water on cash flow because they're being the bank. They're getting small payments back in for most of their patients. And although it's great for revenue flow, you've got money coming in, there's small amounts and you're paying big balances. So I've seen some offices get into some hot water. So just be careful if you're going to offer compassionate financing or some of those others, that you have strict guidelines of when you're allowed to use those. Excellent questions. All right, guys, let's dive into this one because this one's fun. I think some of you out there might have multiple locations and I want to give you guys some ideas. So this office, when we started, it's been about 7 months. They contacted us through COVID and they have 7 locations, 55 employees. That number is actually incorrect. I found out today it's 85 employees. So we've got a lot. I didn't count them when I saw them in person. And their main goals when they called us were to develop a leadership team with accountability, to increase case acceptance, get all the offices operating the same and less on the owner doctors. Running 10 practices myself, that's the number of practices I've been a regional over. Getting all offices operating the same, like holy moly, corporate has this dialed in. Like, let's just learn from them how they do this because it really is tricky to get all your offices to operate the same. And so getting that silver lining around it was really something this office wanted. So in just 6 months, we now have in place that we have a leadership in place running off of Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. If you guys have not read that book, I'm going to give you one of the best business books of your life. We just ran an EOS Traction meeting, an event in the dental A team, where I literally taught you guys how to run a quarterly event if you wanted to. This book has transformed my business. It's transformed hundreds of businesses. And I'm actually being coached by Mike Payton, who is one of the co-founders of Traction, because I love it that much that I want to just learn how to even be better. So I went to the top. I didn't get Gino. I got Gino number 2. But truly, we have this office running on Traction, you guys. I was recommended that book, and I think it's just an honor to be able to share such a gem of a book of how to run your practice. So we have a leadership team in place now for all these locations. And the way we run leadership teams is we actually have 1 hygienist, 1 dental assistant, 1, you can have scheduler, treatment coordinator, office manager, and they oversee all the practices. So that dental assistant's in charge of a lot of dental assistants. We're about to open it up to have a few co-leads, but for right now, we were just getting it streamlined. So that way that hygienist is responsible for all 7 locations. I know there's a lot of logistics to this, very doable. We can work that out, but that's how we're able to do it in this practice. I've tried multiples of having them in each location. And I found that having just a solid leadership team in the top, overseeing all the practices, has made amazing progress for a lot of multi-location practices. Not having just 1 regional. So my philosophy, being a regional myself, I couldn't keep eyes on everything. So that's why we basically make a regional leadership team that oversees all the practices. They are now also running monthly departmental calibrations with all the offices, and they've got KPI tracking. Case acceptance has increased by 25%. And they were sitting at about It averaged between 45 to 65 in each of the locations. So we've been able to bump that up to 65 to 85, depending upon the practice. They have a hiring process in place, so they're able to hire very quickly, have better team members when you're in that many locations. Hiring's tricky, and they have their operations manual completed. They were one of my best offices, and they completed it in about 2.5 months for all 7 locations. So here's some of the things that we did. Here's our quarterly traction meeting. Like I mentioned, all departments, so we're meeting every quarter, setting goals for the quarter of what they're going to accomplish. And here's just kind of a rough outline pulled straight from traction that we taught them how to do. You guys, it's literally life-changing. I used to panic when I have meetings on the schedule, like, oh, what are we going to talk about? So, traction really is able to help you guys streamline, get to the root cause of your issues and solve it forever. So it's a really, really valuable tool. Now, what we also did was here is our sample operations manual for you. So this is the dental aid team we have, and I actually have at the end for you guys, if you guys want. One of the hardest things when I was an office manager was building my operations manual. Now in the dental aid team, I'm struggling to build it for dental aid team because it's like, where do I start? I have all these systems. How do I start? And so it took me about 4 months with all of our consulting team building out what we wish we would have had in offices. That's what we tend to do. We think like, whoa, we would have loved this when we were office managers. Let's build that for the whole dental community and give back. So we have a 650-page customized operations manual. And part of that are these training plans for every team member. So it's a 30, 60, 90-day onboarding process for every single position. So what I did was I helped this office. We gave them the template from the dental aid team, and then I helped her get all the pieces together. So we had better hiring because we were now writing better ads because we knew what their position was, better onboarding because we have a 30, 60, 90-day game plan for every new hire. Plus we also had the operations manual with the protocols in place for them. So the whole team's operating. And now we're getting ready. It's been about 6 months and we're about to update the whole operations manual, but we pulled in from all 7 locations, had them solidify, how do we answer the phones? How do we do our billing? How do we do this? And we created one system that then went to all the practices, and now the regional, like the leadership team, we're getting ready to start traveling to all the offices to ensure that those systems are in place, but they're having their monthly meetings that are calibration, making sure that the big processes are in play for all of them. So here is a little bit more of that 30, 60, 90. So you guys can see this totally came from another office, and I loved how they did it. So we've refined it, made it, but notice that this process is putting it on the new hire, not on you as the office. So when you start, you get this training packet and we say, okay, fantastic. So what's going to happen is these are the things we expect by 30 days. You're going to role play it. You're going to have somebody in the office. It doesn't just have to be an office manager. It doesn't just have to be a lead. It could be anyone that actually looks to see, identify doctor schedule and the colors for each provider. That seems so basic, but I can't tell you how many people in offices struggle at the beginning to know, okay, green is which provider and yellow is which provider. So making sure that they just do a quick role play of, okay, green is for Dr. Smith, yellow is for Mallory, the hygienist, and pink is for Kira, the hygienist. Cool. So we sign off how we think you did. You sign off how you think you did. And then at the end of the 30 days, we compare notes to see how are you doing. Also, it helps you weed out bad hires quicker in the process instead of waiting till 90 days. That was me. You show up and I'm like, oh, shoot, it's been 90 days. I think you're doing everything right. I hope. So this actually prevents that. You have more frequent check-ins with them. And it also helps you see where are we lacking? How can we help train you up? Plus giving them a proactive approach on training. So that really helped. We also, like I said, here's a 30, 60, 90, just a little bit more of that for you guys. So you can see, you total it up. And if they don't have a score over X amount within those first 30 days, we decide, are you actually somebody we want to continue with? Or did we not help you on the training? So now they know everything that they need to do. And we built this out for you guys. So if it's helpful for you, we'd be happy to help you with it. Otherwise, just snag the ideas, make it better for your practice.
Hey, Kira, can I jump and ask one thing about hiring?
Yes, Art.
I ran a CPA firm on my own before I merged for 33 years. And one of the first questions I would ask someone is, do you think you're bright? And I learned a lot about someone when I asked them that. Do you have some tips for our for the folks on this webinar about what should they be looking for? Are there some things that you look at someone and you say, this one really looks like a good prospective employee? Any tips on that?
Absolutely. So we actually, before Dental Lane Team, I used to own a company called Dental Placement Pros, and we hired all across the nation. So I hired for a ton of offices on our website at thedentalateam.com. One of our most popular courses is our hiring course, where I literally have the whole process from A to Z mapped out for you. So how do you write your ads? Where do you place your ads? Because it starts with the ad of who you're attracting. I call that like your fishing bait. What are you putting out there? What's coming back to you? And then we go through your phone interview. I've got scorecards so you can interview all of them the same. Then your in-person interviews are all the same. Then your hiring's the same. And then your 30, 60, 90s. But some of the things, something I do is I actually put a fun question. So on our ad, I make it really fun. I have a really great title so people click on our ad. And then I say at the bottom, submit your resume, your compensation, and then submit your favorite ice cream flavor in the title. Or submit the last book you read in the title, something like that, because one, helps me weed through resumes a lot faster. Also on Indeed, they have to get sneaky, creative, and innovative because it's hard to get an email response because they're just applying. So you will find people that get insanely creative of how they get it to you, which I love because now I know they're innovative, they're determined, and they follow directions. So right off the bat, I've already weeded out people that don't follow direction. That's one of my best tips for you is add one little question to it. You can try all different ones, but write a really good ad. And then you can also do a skills test. I do disc profiling on them. There's some skills tests out there that you can put them through. So how's their like typing, how's their general knowledge of like Microsoft Office, and you can run them through that. But I think more than anything, it's also testing them. So I put people through a working interview as well, just to see who they say they are. I've had plenty of people present well in person. And then when they interview, I'm like, you don't even know what you're doing. You just are a really good talker. So I think some of those pieces, I love your question of, are you bright? I also asked the question, like, let's say we're celebrating in 1 year from now, what would we be celebrating? And that question will tell me if they're an I person or a we person, because they'll say, I accomplished this. I know they're a selfish person, probably not a great team player. If they'd say, well, we'd be celebrating this, I know they're probably going to work better with team members. So there's just some little fun questions that you can ask them. I also, my favorite question to ask is, what would be your superpower for one day if you could have one? And anybody who says reading minds, you know, they're a little sneaky and they've got something to hide, because those people, like, they tend to do it. So some of you are like, oh, that would have been mine. I know those people are a little sneaky. People who want to fly, they want to have freedom in life. Most likely they're wanting to express that. So give them some freedom, some autonomy. They'll probably be happy. One person said they wanted to heal. I thought that was a beautiful superpower. And I'm like, they have a kind, compassionate heart. So you can just find a lot of things out, and people think it's a fun question, so their guard's down, and you can actually learn a lot from that hiring. Excellent question, Art. I love it. I love it so much. Just a couple of wrap-ups for you guys on this, to go back to this practice of how we were able to do it for a multi-practice office is, again, we did the patient flow, just like I talked about for the other office of that perfect handoff. This and scheduling first, and then pausing after you present the numbers. That was a huge, huge, huge win. This is the office I'm working with, where we record their treatment plans and we go over it. So I have a lot of team members. So every other week, I meet with one of their coordinators and we review their treatment plans and give them tips, and all of their case acceptance has gone up exponentially. Excuse me. Here's our KPI tracker. I totally got this from another office, you guys. Like, that's where I say I love the Dental Aid team, because we bring the best practices together and share them. So you guys, like, don't take the hard road. Like, if I've got something that I can share with you, let's share it so you can take the easy road. But this came from one of my offices in New York, and we just changed it. He's amazing. I'm headed out to see him on Monday, actually. So that'll be fun to try out New York and see. We're back to traveling again, which I really love. And you can see on here, they just have a scorecard that's a Google Doc that everyone tracks their goals weekly, and then we can see where they're at. So this helps, especially for those large practices, even small practices. Everybody reports into the Google Doc. You review them on Friday. I have an email that boomerangs back to myself. So it's an app on your Gmail. Guys, if you don't have that, use that. It's one of my favorite tools for organization. But they use that to get everything organized on here, and then they can track it week over week. Again, there's analytical software. There's a ton out there. But what I found is whittle it down to the bare bones of what's going to move the practice forward. Focus on those. If you can use a practice software analytic, which most of these have to come from, do it. I've also found manually tracking, you're really hyper focused on that, because it forces you to look at the numbers, report it, so you actually have an intimate relationship versus a passive relationship with it. Also, the team listens to the Dental Team podcast as a team. So they're doing like team education together. So they're all learning the same verbiage. They ask each other what they learned from it, and then they role play on their weekly meetings. Here's some of our favorite ones that you guys can have, but like becoming a word ninja, increasing case acceptance. So a lot of these pieces. So what I teach them, they're able to reinforce with the podcast. And I thought that was a really brilliant idea. Don't break up with me, how to control cancellations. It's one of our top favorites. None of you should ever be broken up with. So like change your words so people are not calling you and breaking up with you. Like be the hard person to break up with. But that can help you guys. And then also they, okay, so that's basically what we did for that practice. And now I want you guys, as we're wrapping up, I'm very cognitive of your time. What's in your toolbox to go from desperation to inspiration? I've gone through so many things with you tonight. We've done end of day checklists, end of month checklists, training your entire team virtually with the quizzes and accountability. So you can actually train them how to reduce your overhead simply, back office verbiage and treatment planning, the perfect handoff of NDTR, the treatment tracker. And I didn't mention the 222 follow-up. That means you follow up in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. So in case the patient says, oh, Kira, like they actually won't schedule with me, everybody schedules with Kira, everybody. So Art, if you're like, oh, Kira, no, I'm just going to go check my work schedule. And I'm like, Art, I'd hate to forget about you. And you're like, Kira, I'm just going to call you. And I'll say, okay, fantastic, Art. I'll be following up with you in a couple of days just to make sure you didn't have any questions. So even though he's not on my schedule, he still has a follow-up with me in 2 days. So I don't forget about him. So that's where that treatment tracker comes into play. We also have provider views. So you guys can track your production. Make sure you look at that. We also had fluoride therapy and tracking. Remember, sending home toothpaste. If your population, it would benefit. How to build a leadership team and having regionals. You guys can do that in a solo practice or in a multi-practice. Either one. Leadership teams are a hot topic right now that we're implementing in lots of practices. Monthly meeting agendas and how to have calibration meetings. I showed you guys the EOS traction model. One of the best things. Ops manual creation and completion. Like I said, that operations manual, you guys, we have everything for every team member. We have how-tos, we have end of day checklists, we have job protocols and descriptions. We have the whole thing. We have it templated out. So we've written as much of it as we can for you. And then we also have it on there of blanks, because we found if I write how to do billing claims, guess what? The way I do it versus the way you do it might be different, but at least we have all the things that you should have protocols on, and then you can adjust it to your own practice. So people have told me that ops manual has saved them years of their life because it's just mapped out so easily. Change it, adjust it for your practice. So getting your ops manual done, increasing case acceptance, your hiring process with 30, 60, 90s, leadership scorecard for tracking your KPIs. Like you guys have so much in your toolbox. Tony Robbins, he says a real decision is measured by the fact that you've taken action. No action, you haven't truly decided. And I love that because so often we like listen to these things, we're like, we're going to do this. But until we actually decide and we take action, we haven't truly decided that we're going to commit to change. So my question is, write down 3 things right now. I've been having you go through each practice of what are 3 things you're going to implement right now. So when you go to the office tomorrow, or you have your meeting on Monday or whatever day, what are 3 things that you're going to implement right now to make your practice be the practice that you want it to be that inspiring practice this year? Like Art said, you guys, we're in 2021. It's January. This is the time to dream big, to make those become a reality and not just have it be a dream and a wish. For a lot of years, I had on my mirror when I was in high school, I said, don't just dream, do. And so don't just dream about the practice, do what you actually want it to be. So write those down, pop them in the chat. And then I love this. They say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So let's get it done today. Like, let's not put it off. If you wanted to hire differently or get your operations manual done, whatever it is, let's do that today. So that's what I've got for you guys. I wanted to make sure I was cognitive. There's our information. And if you guys go, I'll just show you real quick over here. So if you guys use Eide Bailey, because we love Eide Bailey, the operations manual is on here. And if you guys just use the coupon code, so come to Virtual Academy right here. It's thedentalyteam.com. Some people don't know where to go. So I want to make sure you guys see, here's that hiring course I told you about. So it's right here. It has all those forms, all those documents. You guys can get the whole Virtual Academy if you want, but the ops manual is right down here. You can see what it is right here, and you guys can just pop in Eide Bailey, and that'll give you guys your coupon. So just make sure you guys use that. I love Eide Bailey so much, and I wanted to make sure that we definitely helped you guys out so you guys can snag that. And then some people are like, well, what's in it exactly? Just so you guys can see a quick, this is what will be given to you. So like, this is a billing coordinator one. We have it for every single position, but just so you guys can see what it's going to be mapped out for you. If it's helpful for you, fantastic. I would love it. You guys can just use it. But this is something that offices love, which is why I wanted to make sure we gave that just as a thank you for Eide Bailey. So every person has a job description, the protocol. So this is like what they do every day. You guys can change it up. We also have on here, you guys can see we had it really in depth, their end of day checklists, their assessment forms. So for monthly one-on-ones, you guys can definitely use this. And we update this all the time. So we just added in marketing to it, and we're about to release our associate onboarding with it as well. So once you guys get it, all those updates, whenever we're making new ones, we have that. So that's what we have for you guys. Anything I can do, thank you guys. There's our contact information. There's a coupon, Eide Bailey. Let me know any way we can help you. I'd be happy to. And Art, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been fun, guys. I've loved it. I hope you guys have too. And I'm happy to stay as long as you guys want for questions, making sure I answer all of that for you.
Kira, do you ever sleep? Let me ask you that.
I do sleep.
I think you emailed me at 4:30 this morning, quite frankly, if I remember
did.
correctly.
It's funny. You would think I wouldn't get nervous for a virtual event, but I always want to make sure that when people are coming and I'm presenting, I feel honored. I feel so grateful that I was so nervous. I reviewed all these so much this morning to make sure I was delivering the best for you guys.
I want to share something that, again, I've been in dentistry 36 years. We have lots of clients who've worked with coaches. When you work with a coach, your practice will improve. When you work on your practice instead of in your practice will improve. The definition of insanity, folks, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Hopefully you got some really good tidbits from this course tonight. If Kira's someone that you feel like can help you, give her a call. Here's her contact information. And please work on your practice. You guys do such a great job for your patients. You're not about fixing teeth. You're about a better life, a better self-esteem, a better job, you save people's lives, thousands of them in your career. You do great jobs. We want you to be rewarded for it, and we want you to enjoy what you're doing. And I hope you'll attend and tell all your friends at all the dental societies we're affiliating with to come on to these courses. Listen to wonderful folks. I am bringing on the best of the best. And that's why Kira was our inspiration to kick off our year. The next meeting that we're going to have is going to be on, let me get my calendar out here. It is going to be February the 10th, which is going to be with Christy Boltz, of My Dental CMO. She is a speaker like Kira Dent, and is going to give you amazing, amazing information on what works in marketing and what doesn't and what you should be doing. And everybody, we're going to have I know we all have challenges ahead of us in 2021. We see what's going on in Washington and our economy, but I'm very optimistic. Kira's very optimistic. And I will tell you, if you work on your practice, things will get better. You will make more money. You will enjoy it more. You'll be able to retire earlier, which is what I beat people over the head about. So thank you for attending, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you now next week. If any of you are interested, we have a great webinar on transitions. Okay, that's going to be Pat Wood, the dental attorney, from 6 to 8, 1 week from tonight, January the 20th. We're going to be starting our 4-part series on dental transitions. So please join that. You'll be getting information. You'll be getting information on all of that. All these webinars will be up on Eide Bailey's website, and we're also talking to the dental societies about putting them up on there. So Kira, you are amazing, absolutely amazing. I am so blessed that you chose to share your time with us. Thank you so much. These webinars are located on our website and our YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Kira. God bless all of you, and let's go make it happen. Good night, everyone.
Yes. Thank you.